So you had a great idea, almost a world-changing idea, I would say. Tell us a little bit about that idea.
Yeah, so what I created was a new way to detect pancreatic, ovarian, and lung cancer that costs 3 cents and takes 5 minutes to run. This makes it 168 times faster, over 26,000 times less expensive, and over 400 times more sensitive than our conventional methods of detection, but also it can detect the cancers in the earliest stage, when someone has close to 100% chance of survival. And so far, it is over 90% accuracy at detecting these cancers. And all it really is this tiny sheet of paper that's about the size of a diabetic test strip. And you just take a drop of blood, you put it on it, and you measure the change in electrical properties, and you can instantly see whether or not you have the cancer.
What inspired you to pursue this specific idea?
So I was really inspired to work on pancreatic cancer diagnostics after the death of a close family friend who was like an uncle to me. And what happened is when I was about 13, he passed from pancreatic cancer. It was just detected too late. And that's really the case with the vast majority of pancreatic cancers. 85% of them are diagnosed late when patients have less than a 2% chance of survival. That's one of the craziest things about my story, is that I literally had no clue about anything about cancer biology. I mean, I didn't even know what a pancreas was at the time. And so for me to go from that to be able to discuss these really advanced topics in cancer, I mean, that was really cool to me. It was just kind of this personal evolution, and it all happened thanks to the internet, really.
Google and Wikipedia were some of the sources that you went to and were crucial for your research, and that's basically free information out there. What is your view on open knowledge? Are we doing enough open knowledge?
So I'm a huge proponent of open access to scientific information in particular, just because science is this cumulative process. I mean, there's a saying, I've only seen so far because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. And you need that past work in order to advance your own work. But what essentially is happening right now, particularly with scientific knowledge and information in general, is it's being locked up, it's being commoditized. And what's happening is we're placing paywalls on it. That means like you have to pay $35 or some large fee in order to get access to a single article. And this exponentially raises the cost of doing scientific research and innovating, because it makes it such that it's like this cost of entry barrier to being able to do science. You have to like pay some huge amount of money in order to get the background information that's necessary to innovate.
Did you run into situations where you were trying to research and you found that you needed to pay for an article or the information was not publicly available?
Yeah, I've constantly run into that, and that was one of the major problems throughout my research. I mean, I had to come up with all these different ways of like pirating articles and stuff, and to be forced to almost like be like this illegal criminal, like having to like steal these scientific articles, I mean, that's really demeaning, especially for a young scientific researcher. I mean, what type of message are we sending to our youth when we're saying, oh, you have to steal in order to be able to do scientific research? I mean, that's not a right message to me. And I think that we have to change this such that anyone, regardless of where they're from, should have access to scientific information, because knowledge shouldn't be a commodity and science shouldn't be a luxury. It should be a basic human right that anyone can do.
You've coined the term knowledge democracy. Tell us what that means.
So right now we're actually living in a knowledge aristocracy. We're only 0.008% of the world's population. Those are the only people who can access scientific information. That's like taking 80 people off the street of New York City and saying, you guys, out of the tens of millions of people out there, you guys are the only ones allowed to access scientific information. Everyone else, too bad for you. And then you have 85% of the world's population, 5.5 billion people who lack access to the internet whatsoever and are living in knowledge poverty.
And that was my next question to you was, can we really achieve this with the digital divide that we see in the world?
I really think that we can, because we're seeing so many people coming online in the next few years, because the digital divide is beginning to shrink because of the infiltration of markets with like mobile technologies like your smartphone. I mean, your smartphone is this incredibly powerful platform that you can do all these amazing things with. I mean, you have so much information in the palms of your hands with that. And so by having that, we're going to have so many people coming online, and we'll see those numbers of people who aren't connected begin to fall. And then at the same time, we have this massive movement towards open access publishing, where regardless of where you're from, you can access that scientific information and thus can do scientific research. And it's really breaking down the barriers to innovation such that anyone can innovate.